4 lives that were lost over the weekend with a candlelight vigil and balloon release. Police say they were found dead inside their home Sunday evening near Bart Elementary School. Madison Porter joins us now live to share what they will be remembered for.
Lizzie, the sidewalk and street was filled with family members and friends of those 4 people. At this hour, the Bloomington Police Department has not released any names, but District 87 Superintendent did confirm that one of them was an 8th grader here at the Bloomington Junior High. Speakers at the vigil, claiming to be family members of those 4 people found dead inside the home Sunday evening, spoke to the crowd about who those people were, their aspirations in life, and the impact they made. And a lot was said about the 8th grader from the junior high school.
Mr. Abani was my only. He was my soul. He was my nephew. And this act of violence is uncalled for. A young gentleman who had the heart of gold. God blessed him.
The next president.
And that kid gave me so much. It gave me the courage to do better.
The family members of those who died Sunday evening spent a good portion of the vigil speaking to the crowd about domestic violence awareness. They wanted to let everyone know if they find themselves in a domestic violence situation that there is help for them.
We do want to let you know within the past few minutes we did receive those names and causes of death. We have Christopher Simmons, age 33 of Bloomington, Chelsea Lusher, age 31 of Bloomington, Trina Holings, age 31 of Normal, and Armani L. Bennett, age 13 of Bloomington. We will have further details.
Oh my God. I gotta, it's like, I can do this.
February in Bloomington, Illinois, 2025. A quiet neighborhood blanketed in winter stillness. The kind of ordinary place where people wave to neighbors, where children wait for school buses at the corner, where life unfolds in predictable rhythms. Until it doesn't. On February 23rd, that rhythm was shattered forever on Lee Street. What began as a routine call to local police ended with a discovery that would devastate families, shock a community, and leave 2 young girls without their mother and brother. For bodies, multiple gunshot wounds. A weapon that should never have been in the possession of the man who wielded it. The scene that greeted first responders that day told a story of violence that had erupted suddenly and with devastating finality. Blood-spattered walls. Silence where there should have been life. And questions, so many questions, about how a family's story could end this way. Chelsea Lynn Lusher was 31 years old. A dedicated State Farm employee for 7 years. A mother of 3. A daughter. A sister. A friend described by colleagues as a bright light. Her 13-year-old son Armani had dreams of Harvard, of politics, of one day becoming president. Their futures, along with that of Chelsea's close friend Trina, were extinguished in moments by Christopher Simmons, Chelsea's partner, who then turned the gun on himself. What transforms love into violence? What pushes someone across that terrible threshold where taking lives, including their own, seems like the only option? What drives someone to destroy not just one life, but multiple lives in a single moment of violence? And perhaps most haunting of all, could it have been prevented? The tragedy on Lee Street wasn't just about what happened in those final moments. It was about all the moments that came before. The warning signs that may have gone unnoticed. The legal system that revoked a firearm license but couldn't prevent access to the weapon. The complex dynamics of a relationship that friends described as volatile but that had no documented history of violence. Here at Crime Scene Exposed, we dive deep into the most infamous crimes, baffling disappearances, disturbing confessions, and twisted criminal minds from around the world. We bring you detailed investigations, gripping storytelling, and in-depth analysis of cases that demand our attention, not just for their shocking nature, but for what they can teach us. If you've ever wondered what warning signs might have been missed in cases like these, what systems failed, what lessons we can learn to protect ourselves and those we love, hit that subscribe button and stay with me. Give this video a like if you believe these stories need to be told, not just to document tragedy, but to prevent it. Because Chelsea and Armani's story isn't just about how they died. It's about how they lived. It's about the gaps in our systems. And it's about making sure their deaths weren't in vain. This is the story of the Chelsea Lusher tragedy. A story of lives cut short, of a community in mourning, and of the devastating impact of domestic violence that often hides in plain sight. Chelsea Lynn Lusher was born on February 6, 1994, in Bloomington, Illinois. At 31, she had built a life centered around family, work, and community, a life filled with purpose and connection. As the cherished daughter of Cheryl and Lusher, Chelsea grew up understanding the importance of family bonds. This foundation shaped her into the devoted mother she became to her 3 children, including 13-year-old Armani Bennett. Those who knew Chelsea often remarked on the special relationship she shared with her son, a relationship built on encouragement, support, and genuine delight in his accomplishments and dreams. For 7 years, Chelsea was a fixture at the State Farm offices in Bloomington. In the corporate environment of one of America's largest insurance companies, Chelsea stood out not for seeking attention, but for her reliability and positive presence. Day after day, she arrived ready to work, bringing a warmth that transformed routine customer interactions into moments of genuine human connection. Chelsea was a bright light in our office, one colleague shared after her death. She approached every task with dedication, but it was her kindness that truly set her apart. She remembered details about your family, asked about your weekend, offered help before you even realized you needed it. In her community, Chelsea was known as someone you could count on. She showed up for friends in need. She participated in school fundraisers. She built connections with other parents, creating a network of support that benefited not just her children, but others as well. It was through this community that Chelsea met Christopher Simmons. Their relationship developed gradually, with Christopher becoming a presence in Chelsea's life sometime before June 2023, when he was listed as her partner in her mother's obituary. To outsiders, they seemed like any other couple navigating the complexities of blending lives and families. Christopher, 33, became a regular figure at family gatherings and community events. He and Chelsea shared holidays, weekends, ordinary Tuesday evenings. They built routines together, made plans, faced challenges. Like many couples, they had good days and difficult ones. What Chelsea shared with friends about her relationship varied. Some later recalled moments of happiness she described, Christopher's support during her mother's passing, shared celebrations with the children, plans for the future. Others remembered conversations that hinted at complications, at differences in temperament or approach to life's challenges. But in the day-to-day rhythm of work, parenting, and community involvement, Chelsea continued to be the person her colleagues, friends, and family had always known: dedicated, positive, kind. Her brother Courtney would later describe Chelsea as someone who brought light into every room. Her friend Trina Hollings was drawn to that light, becoming not just Chelsea's best friend, but a second mother figure to her children, caring for those kids as if they were. At 13, Armani Len Bennett walked the halls of Bloomington Junior High School with a sense of purpose unusual for someone his age. While many teenagers struggle to find their place, Armani seemed to have already mapped out not just his high school years, but the decades beyond. His schedule at Bloomington Junior High revealed a young man determined to experience everything life had to offer. When the girls' volleyball team needed a manager, Armani stepped up, handling logistics and supporting the players with an efficiency that impressed his teachers. After school, you might find him in the band room, instrument in hand, or at chorus practice, his voice blending with others to create something larger than himself. Drama productions at the school regularly featured Armani, who brought characters to life with a natural confidence. When track season came around, he laced up his running shoes and pushed himself toward new personal records, understanding even then that discipline and perseverance were muscles that needed regular exercise. Armani was everywhere, one teacher remembered. And not just physically present, he was fully engaged in whatever he was doing. That kind of focus is rare at any age. His father, Alandi Bennett, watched his son's development with a mixture of pride and awe. From a young age, Armani talked about Harvard, Alandi shared after his son's death. This wasn't just a child's fantasy. He researched what it would take, what courses he needed to excel in, what extracurriculars would strengthen his application. But Armani's ambitions didn't stop at prestigious universities. Politics called to him, not as a game of power, but as a path to meaningful change. He wanted to be president, his father recalled. Had that dream since he was little. And the way he was going, working so hard, bringing people together, I believed he could do it. The relationship between Armani and his mother Chelsea was built on mutual respect and unwavering support. Chelsea never missed an important event in her son's busy schedule, rearranging her work hours when necessary to be present for performances, meets, and school conferences. For his part, Armani took pride in his mother's accomplishments, telling friends about her work at State Farm, her volunteer activities, her strength as a single mother before Christopher entered their lives. The bond between them was evident to anyone who saw them together. In their similar mannerisms, their shared sense of humor, their tendency to finish each other's sentences. In quiet moments at home, they would talk about the future. His Harvard dreams, potential majors, summer internships that might put him on the path to Washington, D.C. Chelsea kept a folder of scholarship information, adding to it whenever she came across opportunities that might help transform her son's dreams into reality. On his bedroom wall hung a vision board Chelsea had helped him create, filled with images of Harvard's campus, the White House, and quotes from presidents and changemakers who had shaped history. Next to these grand visions were simpler ones, family vacations they hoped to take, his sister's graduation dates, his mother's smile in a candid photo he'd captured on her birthday. This was Armani, student, athlete, musician, brother, son. A young man with the world opening before him, whose potential would never be fully realized. Chelsea Lusher and Christopher Simmons, 33, shared a relationship that was documented as far back as June 2023, when he was listed as her partner in her mother's obituary. This indicates they had been together for approximately a year and 8 months before the events of February 2025. The background information reveals a critical fact. While those close to the couple indicated there may have been volatility within their relationship, there was no documented history of domestic violence or escalation of violent behavior in McLean County. The McLean County Circuit Clerk confirmed Christopher was not and had never been subject to an order of protection in McLean County. This absence of official documentation is significant when examining how this situation ultimately escalated to violence without triggering formal intervention systems designed to protect individuals from domestic violence. What is clearly documented is Christopher Simmons' history with firearms. In 2021, he legally purchased the gun that would eventually be used in the murder-suicide. However, McLean County court records show that Christopher later pleaded guilty to a charge of unlawful use of a firearm in 2022 as part of a plea agreement. He was sentenced to 18 months conditional discharge, which was due to expire on March 25, 2025, just 1 month after the tragedy occurred. As a result of this conviction, his Illinois Firearm Owner's Identification (FYD) card was revoked. Under Illinois law, this revocation should have prevented him from legally possessing firearms. Despite this legal prohibition, Christopher maintained possession of the gun he had purchased in 2021, the same weapon used in the killings. This gap between legal prohibition and practical enforcement represents one of the most troubling aspects of this case. A system identified a risk but failed to effectively address it. A gun that should have been surrendered remained accessible. The relationship between Chelsea and Christopher existed within this context, a relationship that appeared normal to many observers but ended in an act of violence that took 4 lives. Without documented history of escalating behavior, the warning signs that might have existed were not captured in official records that could have prompted intervention. The tragedy raises important questions about how domestic violence situations are identified and addressed, particularly when there is no official record of previous incidents. It also highlights critical issues regarding the enforcement of firearm restrictions for individuals whose FYD cards have been revoked. Are you seeing the warning signs that were present in this situation? The legal issues with firearms that weren't fully addressed? Comment below what you think authorities could have done differently. Could better enforcement of FYD card revocations have prevented this tragedy? Your insights might help others recognize similar situations in their own communities. February 23, 2025, began as an ordinary Sunday in Bloomington, Illinois. Families attended church services. Others enjoyed late breakfasts or prepared for the week ahead. On Lee Street, neighbors went about their routines, unaware that before the day ended, their community would be forever altered. The exact sequence of events inside the home on Lee Street remains known only to those who were present. What is known with certainty is that at some point during that Sunday, the situation escalated beyond return. Police records indicate that officers were called to the residence on Lee Street. Upon arrival, they made a discovery that would shake even experienced law enforcement professionals for bodies inside the home. Chelsea Lynn Lusher, her 13-year-old son Armani Bennett, her friend Trina Hollings, and Christopher Simmons were all deceased. The scene told a story of sudden violence. There were no signs of forced entry, no indication of a prolonged struggle or confrontation with an outside party. Instead, all evidence pointed to a domestic situation that had escalated to the most tragic possible outcome. Investigators worked methodically, documenting the scene, collecting evidence, and beginning the process of piecing together what had happened in the final moments of these 4 lives. The bodies were transported to the medical examiner's office, where preliminary autopsy procedures would provide the first scientific insights into the manner of death. Those preliminary autopsy results, released in the days following the discovery, confirmed what the scene had suggested. Chelsea, Armani, and Trina each died of multiple gunshot wounds. The medical examiner's findings were clear and unambiguous. This was not an accident or a natural death event, but an act of intentional violence. Christopher Simmons died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, according to the same preliminary autopsy report. The weapon used was the gun he had legally purchased in 2021, before his FOID card was revoked following his guilty plea to unlawful use of a firearm in 2022. The presence of Trina Hollings, 31, in the home that day speaks to the close relationship she shared with Chelsea and her family. Described by Courtney Lusher as Chelsea's best friend, Trina had formed a bond not just with Chelsea, but with her children as well. According to family members, Trina cared for those kids as if they were her own. It's not unusual for close friends to spend weekend time together, sharing meals, watching movies, or simply enjoying each other's company. Trina's presence in the home that Sunday was likely an extension of the supportive relationship she had built with the family over time. What remains unknown is whether Trina was aware of any escalating tensions between Chelsea and Christopher. As Chelsea's best friend, she may have been privy to conversations about their relationship that others were not. She may have come to the home that day simply to visit, or perhaps to provide support during a difficult time. Whatever the reason, her presence placed her in the path of violence that claimed her life alongside Chelsea and Armani. As news of the discovery spread through Bloomington, the impact was immediate and profound. Neighbors gathered near the police tape, struggling to comprehend what had happened on their street. Parents of Armani's classmates faced the difficult task of explaining the inexplicable to their children. Chelsea's colleagues at State Farm received the news with shock and disbelief. For Chelsea's two surviving daughters, February 23rd marked the day their family was torn apart, the day they lost their mother, their brother, and their mother's close friend in a single act of violence. It marked the beginning of a journey no child should have to undertake, navigating grief, trauma, and an altered future. For the broader community of Bloomington Normal, February 23rd, 2025, became a date that would prompt reflection on domestic violence, on gun laws and their enforcement, on the sometimes invisible nature of relationship volatility, and on the devastating ripple effects when violence erupts within a family. The day had begun like any other Sunday. It ended with 4 lives lost, families shattered, a community in mourning, and questions that would linger long after the police tape was removed from Lee Street. In the days following the tragedy, the Bloomington Normal community rallied together in a powerful display of collective grief and support. Residents gathered outside the home on Lee Street for a candlelight vigil, standing shoulder to shoulder in the winter evening, their flames illuminating faces marked by shock and sorrow. Neighbors who had only exchanged casual greetings now found themselves united in mourning, struggling to process the violence that had occurred in their midst.
I just say to y'all right now as a community, it's a black cloud right now over Bloomington.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. It's a black cloud.
Moment of silence, please.
Moment of silence. If you're in a domestic violence relationship, get out. Get out. Run. It's not worth it. Amen. For real, it's not worth it. You see, I just lost my sister and my nephew to domestic violence. My nieces lost their mom and their brother and their TT to domestic violence.
What was it? Someone tell me now. What was her favorite song? She was beautiful. She had it all going on. She would rise a smile off your face if you was in a bar on a worst day, or if you're at a grocery store on your worst day. You could release them.
Long live Chelsea.
Long live Chelsea.
Watch out for the line. Watch out. Let's go. People.
Bloomington Junior High School, where Armani had been a vibrant presence in the hallways just days before, moved quickly to provide support for students and staff. The school administration brought in additional counselors and social workers, creating safe spaces for Armani's classmates to express their grief and confusion. Teachers who had watched him manage the girls' volleyball team, perform in chorus and band, act in drama productions, and run track now faced the difficult task of helping other students navigate their emotions while processing their own loss. For many of Armani's peers, this was their first encounter with violent death, a harsh introduction to the fragility of life. School officials sent communications to parents, providing guidance on discussing tragedy with adolescents and identifying signs that might indicate a need for additional support. Meanwhile, the financial realities of unexpected funeral expenses prompted family members to reach out to the wider community. Courtney Lusher, Chelsea's brother, established a GoFundMe page to help cover funeral costs and provide support for Chelsea's 2 surviving daughters as they faced a future without their mother's guidance and love. Alani Bennett, Armani's father, created a separate GoFundMe with dual purposes to cover funeral expenses for his son and to establish a scholarship in Armani's name. This scholarship would honor Armani's academic aspirations and support students who shared his passion for education, ensuring that something positive might emerge from the tragedy. A third GoFundMe was set up in memory of Trina Hollings, with proceeds directed toward helping her mother with afterlife expenses. The multiple fundraising efforts reflected the wide circle of people affected by the losses and the community's desire to provide tangible support. Perhaps the most powerful response came from Amber Thompson, Chelsea's sister and Armani's aunt. At the community vigil, she delivered a raw, urgent message that cut through the grief with its clarity and purpose. If you're in a domestic violence relationship, get out. Run. It's not worth it. For real, it's not worth it. I just lost my sister and nephew to domestic violence. My nieces lost their mom and their brother to domestic violence. Her words, spoken through tears but with unwavering conviction, transformed personal tragedy into public warning. They acknowledged what many had been reluctant to name directly, that the deaths of Chelsea, Armani, and Trina were not just a tragedy, but specifically a domestic violence tragedy, one that might have been prevented. In the aftermath of loss, the Bloomington Normal community demonstrated its capacity for compassion, its commitment to supporting those left behind, and its determination to learn from tragedy. Through vigils, counseling resources, financial support, and Amber Thompson's powerful testimony, they began the long process of healing while honoring the memories of those whose lives had been cut short. The Chelsea Lusher tragedy illuminates critical gaps in our systems designed to prevent domestic violence. While there was no documented history of domestic violence between Chelsea and Christopher, those close to them noted volatility in their relationship, subtle warning signs that never reached official channels. This highlights how domestic tension can escalate without triggering formal intervention until it's too late. Perhaps the most glaring missed opportunity involves Christopher's firearm. Despite his FOID card being revoked after pleading guilty to unlawful use of a firearm in 2022, he maintained possession of the gun he purchased legally in 2021. This disconnect between legal prohibition and practical enforcement represents a systemic failure with fatal consequences. The Bloomington Police Department's response following the tragedy underscores the importance of early intervention. They urged anyone experiencing domestic violence to call police or contact local domestic violence organizations, specifically highlighting their 24-hour domestic violence hotline at 309-827-7070. They also directed community members to 211illinois.org for additional resources. These resources exist because domestic violence thrives in isolation. When victims and concerned friends or family members reach out, they break that isolation and create opportunities for intervention. Organizations provide safety planning, emergency shelter, legal advocacy, and counseling, resources that can save lives when accessed before violence escalates. The gap between Christopher's revoked FOID card and his continued possession of a firearm points to broader issues in gun regulation enforcement. When someone is deemed unfit to possess firearms, effective mechanisms must exist to ensure compliance with surrender requirements. Without enforcement, legal restrictions become merely symbolic. Chelsea Lusher, Armani Bennett, and Trina Hollings leave behind not just grieving loved ones, but a community forever changed by their absence. For Chelsea's 2 surviving daughters, the road ahead is unimaginably difficult, navigating life without their mother and brother while processing the traumatic circumstances of their deaths. Yet even in tragedy, there is potential for meaningful change. The Bloomington Normal community's response, from vigils to support services to fundraising efforts, demonstrates how collective grief can transform into collective action. Amber Thompson's powerful warning at the community vigil has already reached beyond those physically present, potentially saving lives by encouraging others to recognize and leave dangerous situations. The scholarship established in Armani's name ensures that his academic aspirations will live on through other students. The conversation sparked about domestic violence awareness, gun regulation enforcement, and community support systems may lead to policy changes and improved intervention strategies. If this story moved you, or you know someone who might benefit from these resources, please share this video. Your simple act of sharing could connect someone in danger with life-saving information. And if you have thoughts on how communities can better protect families from domestic violence, whether through improved enforcement of firearm restrictions, better recognition of warning signs, or enhanced support services, I want to hear from you in the comments. Your insights might help others recognize similar situations in their own communities and take action before tragedy strikes. The legacy of Chelsea, Armani, and Trina depends partly on what we learn from their story and how we apply those lessons to protect others. Their lives mattered. Their deaths should matter too, not just as statistics, but as catalysts for change.